Welcome to Brave Healer Productions. It's time to experience what's possible. So, what if there's something you haven't learned yet that could change everything? Welcome, everyone. I'm Laura DeFranco, the CEO of Brave Healer Productions, where we are helping the world experience what's possible. And here today to help me with that mission are three of the amazing authors of one of our newest books. This one is called Mentorship Mastery, a holistic guide for virtuous leaders. I'm going to introduce these authors to you, but first, a huge shout out goes to our lead author, Julie Campbell. Julie, your vision and mission for this book was ginormous, and I'm so grateful to just be partnering and collaborating with you and this expert cast of co-authors that you brought around you to talk about mentorship. This topic in this book has changed my perspective and my awareness around the topic, and it's been an incredible journey learning from you and all of your authors. So thank you. We would not be here without you. You guys, I have some pretty cool people in my Zoom room today. Jerome Zazera is a practicing physical therapist and mentor where he leads others to a return to physical and mental health through the leadership principles of Jesus Christ. Lorelei Matisse is here, author, leadership program manager, and emotional intelligence coach. She empowers individuals through active listening and radical curiosity to create courageous, actionable ways to live fully with head and heart. And Dr. Mike Jefferson is here. He's a retired Navy captain, executive consultant, author, philanthropist, and motivational speaker. Welcome, you guys. I can't wait to get into this. Mike, we're going to start the party off with you. Can you tell us a little bit of the why behind your chapter?
Yes, Laura. My name is Mike Jefferson, and the why behind my chapter is relatively simple. I've been through a lot of things in my life and seen others go through a lot of things. My goal here was to highlight that challenge when you're being forged in the fire, when you're going through adversity that you couldn't have anticipated. And so it's just a goal of mine to help others go through things when I didn't have that clarity at my youth or even through my growing through those pains. I think it's great to be able to not only talk to those who are being mentored, but also mentors.
Listen, you're saying forged by the fire, and like, so some of us have read your chapter and I'm like, oh, that's just a tiny bit of this. You were pretty vulnerable and very brave the way that you shared your story. I got goosebumps as I read it. What do you think is the most important piece when somebody's going through something like that, a time where they could easily just say, nah, I give up, I'm done, you know? What do you want them to know?
Well, I want you to know that it's never over until it's over, and to have someone in your corner who tells you truth, but also is empowering. It's a dichotomous role that a mentor has. They have to be able to hold you accountable, but at the same time, comfort you enough for letting you know that you've got more in you. This is not done. There's another chapter to be written. And I think there's an encouragement when you have somebody who's both inspirational, but also directive.
I think it actually takes courage to be the one who can do the truth telling. It's for the mentor, this takes some skills, getting to the point where you've got the courage and confidence to kind of say it like it is to the person and hope they don't go running in the other direction. Like, what else about that?
Yeah, I think it's through experience, right? So you don't just get that skill set just by reading about it or listening to others do it. You get that through tried and true methods of not only being mentored or maybe going through things yourself, but working things out and getting to a point where you know there's a better next step. And so when you step in to help someone else, they need to believe that what you're saying is true and that it will work for in their favor. And so I think when you look them in the eye, when you have, heartfelt conversations, when you're looking past their problem into their promise, I think that inspires individuals to know that it's not over. It is not easy, but it is something that is required for most, if not all humans, to go through a tough part of life and get to the triumph.
We've talked about it in some of the other interviews in terms of, the things that we'll talk about today, the things that we'll talk about in this mentorship mastery book. These are life skills, y'all. Like, this isn't just about being a mentor or mentee.
Right.
This is for all communication. Mike, thank you for saying yes to this project, for being here today to share. Thank you.
A blessing.
So, Lorla, I'm coming over your way next. Tell us a little bit of the why behind your chapter.
Oh, I could speak probably for days on this one, but with the limited time, what I will say is there is a misconception, I believe, about mentorship, about leadership, about how we truly show up in the world. And I believe that a lot of us think that if we get book smarts and if we get all of the things inside of our head, that we will be able to think ourselves kind of out of a problem, out of a situation, out of anything that we think is a problem. And unfortunately, that sometimes just doesn't work because we cut off a very large part about who we are. And that part of us is that heart part that is usually that gut instinct, that passion, that direction that maybe we're ignoring and trying to rationalize and justify in our heads to avoid. And I think by connecting those two big parts of us and by listening to both parts of us, is that we are able to truly make probably a bigger impact, but also a more rounded decision, not just coming from what we think, but also what we feel. And it's a true aspect of what we are able to do, I think. And that's why.
Yeah, don't cut out the heart part, you guys. Like, this is the thing. So you just got it in the last sentence. You said the way is the feeling. And I was just about to ask you, like, well, tell us how we go from that heart space, right? So tell us a little bit more about how you do it.
Oh, so how I do it, I've learned it's called the great pause. We all are very instinctive and impulsive kind of people that we feel that as leaders or even as mentors that we need to respond very quickly or react very quickly to a concern, a problem, a issue at hand. And in all honesty, if we are able to take that moment, just for that moment, and listen truly to what actually is being said, and maybe what you can hear underneath that, it's just you're able to hear a different answer. At least I am able. I call it kind of my superpower is that I kind of can hear underneath what is not being said, because what's not being said is usually the thing we're talking around. So I tend to pause quite often and listen to what needs to be said versus what I feel needs to be heard.
It's been an interesting theme, this pause. I think it is probably the mark of a mentorship master, is being able to do this pause y'all keep talking about. I love it. And it just gives you the space to have the awareness. I mean, right? I love that. Lorelai, thank you also for saying yes to this and for putting your amazing wisdom into this chapter.
Thank you.
Jerome, let's pop over to you. What's a little bit of the why behind your chapter?
For me, it was all about developing the deeper relationships. When I talk about my faith and my walk with Jesus Christ, he was all about relationship, and that required a person to become vulnerable. But often when you're meeting someone for the first time in a mentor-mentee relationship, who's going to make the first move? Because this is a person that typically doesn't know you. And so I would take the lead as a mentor and become vulnerable to that person and share something that may be very deep and personal that maybe I don't want anybody else to even know about. But what that does is it allows someone then to say, hey, this person just shared something deeply with me. He trusts me with this information. And then it allows the opportunity for them to respond likewise. There's an old adage that tell a story, get a story. And I really think that plays profoundly into the chapter that I wrote.
I love listening to all of you on what feels like a theme of you got to build some trust first.
Yeah.
And but that doesn't happen overnight. Jerome, tell me a little bit more about in the beginning. Of course, you want to do that as quickly as possible, but that's not like a quick thing in many cases. Or I don't know, maybe it is. Tell me more about that.
It really depends on the nature of the mentee-mentor relationship. If you're dealing with a group that's like-minded, like the C.S. Lewis Institute, people are coming in with a certain perspective, and you can kind of jump in a little bit more quickly in that regard. If it's someone with SLG, the Seven Leadership Group, that was a little different in that you just kind of you're sharing little bit by little bit as the person allows you to do that. And that's a field Mike was talking about this, that you develop this life skill through experience as to what you can do and what you can't do, in a moment. And so with a one-on-one person, I wouldn't necessarily jump right in being vulnerable, but I would like ease it in as the relationship deepened and developed with the mentee.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be authentic trust building. I mean, or else it doesn't work at all. I mean, and again, we're just talking about all relationships here,
Yeah.
not just being a mentor. Anything else about that?
I want to go back to just very briefly then about this idea of following Jesus Christ and his leadership, how he led people. He met people where they were. I think that's important in being a mentor. And so that's what I try to do. And in doing so, again, you're taking a risk because the person, as you share something with that person, they may accept you and grow in trust with you, or they may say, wow, this is too much for me. I'm not going anywhere with this guy. In either case, though, you are becoming more fully alive because you're taking that risk. It could lead to incredible joy. It can lead to incredible sorrow, perhaps, in the relationship. But no matter, you're being more fully alive. And I love that. And I love that trying to bring that to a one-on-one discussion and relationship with another person.
Yeah, I love that too. Jerome, thank you also for saying yes to the project, for being here today to share. You guys, I have huge gratitude for all three of you for saying yes, but it's a little bit more than that. And while I drop some more gratitude, let's take a little peek at this beautiful book cover. Mentorship Mastery. You guys put your vulnerable, amazing stories in this book. And then as the master teachers you're dropping some wisdom, teaching a strategy, a tool, a practical experience for the reader. And I wanted to say, thank you for doing that so well. It's one thing to help the people you help every single day in front of you, but it's quite another to get that teaching moment in black and white in a chapter of a book so that the reader has an experience. This book is phenomenal, a phenomenal gift. So I'm talking to our listeners now too. It's you are going to have a toolkit of mastery here, and not just for mentorship, but for life. Lorelei, what's the best thing about being a mentor for you?
Oh. I feel that it probably is that aspect of kind of like what Jerome said, and also what Mike said, is that creating that relationship. This is a relationship that doesn't end just when the mentee goes on. This is a lifetime type of relationship that you get to have. I also believe that the best thing that I get is seeing that transformation. Even if it is just ever so slight and it might not be recognizable to that mentee, you get to see it. You get to see it. And then usually what happens is that I will tell people, contact me in about 6 months. Tell me what else has happened. Because what continues is not just the unfolding of this person, but this actual embodiment of those skills that they were able to use and the things that they were able to do, that even they were surprised at. And I think that that actually is the best thing, because as a mentor, I feel that it's not necessarily my job to do the full aspect of the job. Mine is to plant a seed, to cultivate it, to help to water it, to hopefully help to see something grow from it. But it also is this aspect of seeing what's possible and letting that other person see what's possible. So there's just so many gifts in it. There's not just one or the other, that it's best if you do it this way, or if it's best that you do it that way. I think it really is that gift that you get to just keep uncovering every single time you encounter this person again.
Jerome, I'm going to move to you with the same question. Lorelei got a lot of the different little golden nuggets of this. There's so many gifts. What's your favorite part of this?
My favorite part of this is helping people discover the beauty in relationship. You know, we're in a world and in a culture right now where we're very isolated because of our electronics, our iPhones that we carry around. You look at people in a restaurant, they're all on their iPhone, they're not interacting with one another. And I think there's a real hunger within people that they're not even aware of right now. That to get back to this idea of being in relationship, we were created to be in relationship with one another, and to like ignite that spark in someone and say like, hey, this is really cool. I may not agree with everything that was being said, but I'm in a conversation now. And I think that's real exciting. And people, once they get a taste of that, they want more of it. And so that's for me, my golden nugget, if you will.
Yes. Yes, with an exclamation point on that one, you guys. Like, let's please get off our phones and be with each other. Yeah. Okay, Mike, I know it's hard to go last on this one, but I know you have a favorite part of this. What is it?
Yeah, so I do, and let me just highlight what Jerome and Lorelei said. I think there's a great, I love the pause and I love the seed planting. These are all euphemisms for just life in general, but I think that seed planting, and Jerome, as you talk about relationship building, I watched the show called The Chosen, and watching Jesus as he navigates his apostles and builds relationships with each of them very unique. It's crafted so well and how that happens, but it reminds me of the mentor relationships and mentee, both as a mentee and a mentor over my life. And I think the greatness of a mentorship and mentee relationship is that you get to plant those seeds, not expecting, just like God says, hey, Apollos watered, but God gives the increase. Some plant, some water, but the increase comes from God. So I think my relationships really look forward to plant the seed and not have an expectation that everything's going to happen in a specific time frame or to see it happen. I've had people years later and say, hey, I'm a captain. They made captain at the same time I was a captain. They were a lieutenant. And the reason those are so critical seeds planted is because they didn't see it back then, but I saw something in them and I was able just to plant the seed to say, you can do it. If I did it, you can do it. And other little nuances in the relationship that develop, like whether it's family matters, whether it's travel, whether it's their hobbies, whether it's their spheres, being able to share and tell a story to get a story. Excellent, Jerome. I think that point really, really suffices when you're doing key mentoring traits. That's my best part of mentoring, really, is to be able to expose my vulnerabilities, my struggles, but also the triumphs after looking past those as they weren't going to stop me. Not everybody has that intrinsic motivation from the beginning. So it's critical that when you take the time with mentees that you share the struggle, because the struggle is maybe where they see their victory and going through that process. And sometimes we often overwhelm ourselves with saying too much. So I'll stop there and just say that I love the storytelling because it is where life is and life is lived.
Mm-hmm.
Listening to all of your versions of this, these favorite pieces of this, the chapters that you guys are going to read in this book are are such great storytelling as well. The story pieces are amazing. All right, I got this one last question for all of you, and I want to give you a chance to talk a little bit more about the chapter and the gifts that you are teaching in your chapter. Jerome, what's the most important thing you want people to know about deepening the relationship by becoming vulnerable?
I would say, don't be afraid to share aspects of yourself that you think might be judged, to have the courage to go forward in that, because when we hide things within ourselves, we inhibit developing a relationship with another person. And it's very, very freeing when you're able to share something that's deeply personal to you that maybe you don't want anybody else to know. But once they know it, as Mike said, we don't want to have an expectation. I think oftentimes we have expectations. How is this person going to view what I'm telling them? Are they going to judge me or not? And if you can have that courage to do that, it is incredibly freeing. And you just kind of step into that, and you kind of spread your wings and fly.
It's great.
Oh, it's so scary sometimes though.
Oh, yes.
Right. But it is so freeing. I love that you use that word. All right, Mike, the most important thing you want people to know about rising from the crucible.
Right. So there is, very simply put, rising from the crucible is a decision, right? And so in this process, as you go through the toughest parts of life, and as you'll read in the chapter that I wrote, I think it's critical to understand when you're on the precipice of possibility, you need to be able to ask yourself, are you ready to step into this forge that I've kind of used as a metaphor to describe life? And I think understanding vulnerability is the first point of understanding your transformation. Love that word, Lorelei, that you have to be willing to transform from where you were to where you're going. And I think the intimacy, and I'll use that word, of going through a process and being able to share with somebody is freeing, like Jerome said, but it's also in a liberating way where your mind is not so encapsulated about what will people think. What are people going to feel about me? I say in this second half of life, one of the greatest lessons I've learned, and I try to pass this on to my young mentees, is I care about people. I care less about what people think. And the difference there is that when I'm living the best life I can, I know that it will satisfy some and not others. But I am free from the burden of trying to impress or get someone to like what I'm doing. And that helps you to get through a dialogue with a mentor or somebody you trust, because freeing is the part that allows you to transform. You cannot get there without being ultimately vulnerable to take off the table what is holding you back or keeping you bound. And I think this is the thing that I think most people would take from this. The key attribute of vulnerability is being able to see yourself where you're going and not hold on to what people think.
Oh, you guys, these are big potatoes topics today. Like this is life-changing stuff. So I hope you got to rewind to some of these nuggets. It's really phenomenal. Okay, Lorelei, you are going to close us out today with yours. What's the most important thing you want people to know about being that? Well, you talk about emotional awareness. So I'm going to go there.
Okay.
What's that thing you want people to know?
Emotions are just information. I know that that's such a simplistic answer, but it's one of these things that I think that as we go into our lives and go into our leadership and go into all of these life experiences, that we have to check our emotions at the door, that we don't get to fully bring them in. And I feel that that's such a counterintuitive way to live. If you are able to truly embody that honesty within yourself and that truth within yourself, head, heart, all these things, you are a full 360 person, regardless of where you are. And if you can fully be all in wherever you go, emotional, mental, spiritual, physical, the greater impact you're going to have, the greater experiences you're going to have in life. I feel that we are all chasing joy somewhere, but we're so afraid to know what that actually feels like. And I think that when we are giving ourselves permission to feel, or actually start to allow that feeling to come in those business situations, in those mentorship kind of situations, I feel that that also is an aspect that builds that psychological safety and builds that trust, so that you can have, just like what Jerome said and just what Mike said, that storytelling, that truth, that vulnerability, that absolute shedding of who they were to become who they are. And so I feel that that's just an aspect, just a little aspect of it. And it's something that just continues in my life to grow. Each time that I'm able to work with a mentee or work with somebody that does that and isn't afraid of it, oh, that power that just comes behind it it makes me just want to cry. That's how amazing it truly is. So yeah, it's one of those, I want to be succinct, but I also, it's just, there's so much beauty in it that I just want to tell everybody about it.
I'm happy for your passion and everybody in this Zoom room's passion. Lorelei, Mike, Jerome, thank you so much for what you do in the world and for being here today to share it with everyone. You guys, listeners, this is way more than a book. This is a generous expert community. So I have everybody linked up down below in the show notes with their links. Go explore what they're up to. It is a lot of awesomeness. And they're there to answer a question. You know, you guys might have a question after listening to this conversation today. So please go explore what all of our authors are up to. And of course, we would love for you to hop over to Amazon and grab your copy of Mentorship Mastery. I've got the link below for you for that as well. And lastly, today, everyone, remember, your words change the world when you're brave enough to share them. So it is time to be brave. See you next time, everyone.